All right, Zach, we are, it's ready to start. We got to shake the llama. So we are just coming off a couple days here of the Recharge sessions.
I'm recharged.
You were actually a guest speaker up in Chicago at the Chicago store, so that's pretty cool. So kind of just want to break down what we talked about, kind of where the group's at. You know, we do these trainings 3 times a year. Big events, we pull people out of the store for half a day. There's usually great food, which is why I go.
Yeah, and the last 2 days were highlights.
I know, they were so good. Get people out of the store. You know, you have service advisors, service managers, sales managers, some parts managers in there.
Yeah, about everybody who's customer facing outside of technicians who keep the store alive while we're gone.
Yeah. So you presented, or I guess let me just start this way. Like, what were your big takeaways from the session?
Yeah, I think to fill in Austin's point, the part that's so cool about this with our company is like we're truly stopping production and business to do these trainings. So like we bring everybody off site, get them out of dealerships because we've done it for so long, where insight means, I could be right downstairs. I'll help that customer, right? And then they leave the training. So we intentionally go off site. We break them up into the different departments. Yep. So for me, I had the opportunity to talk about sales manager expectations and had general managers as well. I think you had service and parts or just service?
There was a couple parts managers in there. But yeah, we did service managers, advisors.
And then the other sessions were, there was a finance session and then I believe 3 different sales sessions. One around customer behaviors, so CSI, CXI, CSE, depending on what brand you're with and different things. And then the other 2 were around data metrics, so accountability and sales metrics, closing percentages, showroom visits, task completion. And then truly one just based around technology, advertising, marketing, social media, the future, which is super cool to say. And like one day you're going to give somebody 3 to 4 sessions of exposure to what is the car business. And if you are 1 month in the business, coming out of one of these recharger sessions, you're at least going to have a better understanding. If you're 30 years in the car business, you're going to come out of them and at least get a refresher or recharge on where we headed as a company. So
I think one of the things I picked up on, it was kind of the opening comments, because they did a poll about how many followers do you have, how many times do you post, blah, blah. What really struck me when I was digesting that was, you know, the dealer used to promote themselves. It was all about advertising the dealer. Today, it's like, no, you promote yourself, Mr. Salesman. Like, you promote yourself,
if you do it.
and then we win. So I thought that was such a dramatic shift. But, you know, you guys did a couple TikToks that were pretty good.
We did.
We
started
in the
off
opening part of it.
Yeah, so it's just showing people. The idea was when I was in Chicago, I kind of had the idea of it, that we're at an event where we're going to talk about social media, marketing, branding. Why are we not doing something here to show somebody how easy it is? And for us, it was just the quick hitters of what would be your first car? Hey, what car would you never buy? And asking, you know, there were 6 different dealerships there when it comes to, you know, brand-wise. Being able to ask somebody, what kind of car would you never buy when you're standing next to maybe a competitor or even the competition, or maybe a brand that we sell that someone else doesn't like?
Yeah.
How do you handle it, the fun, interaction, that kind of thing?
Well, one of the videos had over 10,000 views.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. Yeah.
So we'll see what the other one does. Logan got it up and posted, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up. He's shaking his head behind the camera, so we'll see how it ends up doing. But it's fun to just show people how easy social media can be. The other side of it, too, is it was shocking when I was in Chicago. There was an individual who said he had over 127,000 followers on social media, but doesn't use the platform for business.
Come on.
And I'm like, in my head, in the back of the room, like, to your point, as a general manager, if somebody had 127,000 followers, I wouldn't care if it was breakdancing, fishing. I wouldn't care if it was crocheting. Like, I would find a way to promote my business and brand through that person and say, like, hey, if you make a video about this and can tie the brand into it just wearing one of our shirts, I'll pay you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the cool part about this training is, like, how we're trying to find ways to promote the individual, and then that self-promotes the brand, which is Roman Automotive.
Yeah. And it's crazy, though. You have a room full of, how many people were there any given day?
I think today was 86, and I think yesterday was like 104 with general managers.
Yeah. So it's amazing, like, just to preach that message to everybody, but only how few people do it. You know, why do you think that is?
I don't know. It was today, I think it was 26 or something that haven't used social media ever for anything like when it comes to posting it. And then I think the question was then asked in the poll, like, how many of you 26 are just like backdoor creepers that are using social media and you just don't post, but you just watch
You just
everything?
check people out?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think for me, being on camera, the podcast, anything we've done is not natural. I mean, we've joked about it always back in the car business when we do the voicemails. Hey, go in the other room, record a voicemail on a 2018 Camry, customer called in. and you record it like 5 times, right?
Yeah.
Because when you go back, you hear your voice, you don't like how you sound, you don't like how you look, those kind of things. And I think for the beginning for me, it was just getting over it. Like, hey, my job as a general manager is to promote this company and promote my people and make the business easier. Social media is something I've never done, so I need to do it. And I think for a lot of us, I don't know how to do it. I'm afraid if I do it, people are going to make fun of me doing it. And then I think the last one is just that overall, how do I begin? Why do I start? I guess I'll just not do it.
I think that I always go back to what that Lincoln salesman from Pennsylvania said.
Who was that?
I don't know.
Small guy.
You know how he's like, hey, I mean, if you do a video and it does bad, nobody saw it. If you do a video and it did good, like, it's great.
I would say that was probably the biggest takeaway. That's Russ Phillips Whips for those when he came and did training with us and kind of walked through. I would say that was my biggest takeaway. Of like, I think the question was asked like, hey, I don't do it because if I do it, it sucks. Yeah. And he's like, well, the good news is if you suck, no one's going to see it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that was a light bulb of like, kudos to that point. Like if it's terrible, no one's going to view it outside of probably my mother. Yeah. And she's going to tell me it was amazing. So
no matter what.
Either way, it's fake news, right?
Speaking of, I'm sure your mom would have loved your training session today. Yeah, right. So talk to us about what did you...
Mom, it all came from you. This was about sales expectations. So
walk us through that. What does that mean?
So I think the big one for me, again, I've been general manager for 5 years. I've been in this store for 10. I've been blessed to know the Toyota brand, which... without a doubt, when you spend 10 years with them, you grow up through it as a salesperson, finance. I do. I have a path that is like the most ideal path you could create for automotive. With that, the blessings I've had is that I've had to learn every position through here. So I know people on a more intimate level where they can share things. I'm not the GM that just took over a year ago, and I don't know you as a salesperson. A salesperson doesn't know me as the GM, et cetera. So,
I mean, you've had 10 years of tenure at the group, right? Yeah. So a lot of people know you. Yep. You're one of the old guys.
So in this scenario, my people are very open and communicated with, hey, here's what I'm struggling with this. What I knew and what I've realized this year is as the markets come back and we're starting to be more competitive, how do we know we're successful? Yeah. Like black and white, if I sat in a room and I said to you, we're going right into the training, so this is good. Austin, as the fixed director of the group, how do you know you're doing a good job? Your answer would be what?
Profit of the stores, I guess.
Okay, so the stores are profitable. Or are they... How much do the Romans want you to make? What's the answer?
I don't really know.
Right? So, like, you think you do a good job because you work hard, you try hard, and they don't say anything that you're doing bad. Yeah. But, like, when we get into a sales manager mindset, when I asked that question to sales managers 2 weeks ago and then this week, it was, well, my manager hasn't told me I'm doing poorly.
So that's how they know they're doing well if they haven't heard they're doing bad.
So you haven't heard you're in trouble. Like my response is like
that's so true.
If Trey Rohrman walked up to me and said, Zach, your net profit's not good, and I say, okay, what do you want it to be? And he says, not for sure, but it's not good. Yeah. I leave that conversation going, I hate working for Trey Rohrman, and these guys have no clue what they're doing. Unfortunately for us as sales managers, we weren't promoted because we were great leaders. And I bring this comment up, and I love it because I say, there's 3 ways you were promoted. You literally were forced into the role because the dealership had a change and they needed you. You were the last man standing in the dealership, meaning you outlasted everybody in the role, right? The general manager got let go. The GSM got let go. We looked around and went, who's been here the longest? Oh, you're the new GM, right? Or third, there was a change and we recruited you into it because we needed that help. The fourth one that tends to be the one that we kind of see more than anything in the Rohrman organization is you were a top producer. Yeah. So we think you can now manage people. And what we need to learn and be, responsible in the leadership role to be able to say like, hey, I'm probably not a good people leader is I haven't set expectations because I've never had expectations. Go sell cars. Great. How many do you want? As many as you can get. Okay, no problem.
That's so true.
So for sales
but don't
managers,
sell less than 10.
Right? And even in that, like the conversation in the training today was like, what if you sold 8 cars on 20 showroom visits? Would you fire the person? Or would you say to him, hey, I need you to take 25 showroom visits, you'll sell 10 cars?
I'd probably want to give that guy more leads.
Right? And that's the conversation of where we got into is like, what is the expectation for the role? So it would start out with, what's a sales expectation? Set appointments, be on time, have a good attitude.
Be on time.
Right, be on time.
That's tough for sales
But they're all true, right? All those
that is true.
All those would be things that you would look at and say, like, as a salesperson, if I do these things, I'm successful. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's not immeasurable. So, like, the idea we get to the base of it's like, if I walked home with a report card, this is why I said, thank you, Mom, and I opened it up before I left school. Before you leave school, you open the report card, you know within 5 seconds, oh, crap, what's my game plan when I get home to handle this? Or, oh, good, this isn't going to be a big deal. Yeah. And if I had a C- on my report card, I knew my mom and dad were going to probably say you can't go to your friend's house. You may lose the sports that you want to play because I shouldn't have a C-.
Yeah.
My mom was also the principal of a school, so it made it a little more difficult for me. But like it was that black and white. Yet I asked the question to you, how do you know you're successful as fixed ops director? It's not black and white. So the idea was to take sales managers away from be on time, have a good attitude, into what's a true KPI that can be measured. And it took them 3-4 times to go through it before we got to it. But the idea would be now to go back in your stores, do it with your full sales management team, leadership, general manager, and then present it to the salespeople of like, hey, very black and white. It's this. And some people were 35 showroom visits a month. Some people were 15 cars or $5,000 of personal income. Because if you're making money, we're cool with you being here.
Kind of an either or.
Yeah. So it was trying to open it up instead of have a good attitude to that, which was cool because at the end of it, we took the KPIs to ChatGPT and said, hey, round 1 was have a good attitude, be on time. I want you to type all those out, and then I want you to list the KPIs, and then I want you to tell Chat to combine them into measurable KPIs.
Yeah.
So it would say like, hey, sell 15 cars or $5,000 of income, expectation, and then it would list all the things that you had to do to get there. Be on time, have a great attitude, always study your product knowledge. Like it was a great way to show them how to condense it into hopefully effective leadership that, again, to the point, we all aren't great leaders.
Yeah, because you're trying to get like super bottom funnel of like, this is the result that I want. Now let's drive the behaviors.
Yeah, and again, give the freedom to a salesperson, right? We talked a lot about this. There was a guy that I grew up in the business with. He's still here, David Ford. David sold 18 to 20 cars a month. Same time I was selling cars, I was selling 12 or 13. David was the king of Craigslist. It was when Craigslist was still not where you find a stalker, where you actually could sell vehicles, right? And David would sell them all off Craigslist, but his GP would be about the same as the number of cars he sold. So if he sold 18 cars, the total profit would be about 18 grand.
Yeah.
And for me, I couldn't sell that many because I didn't understand Craigslist. I didn't understand how to market the car. I would want to spend more time with someone to sell a new car because I could work in aftermarket, profit, etc. Again, the conversation would be, who would you fire? And some people instantly go, oh, David Ford, or some people say Zach because he's less producing. My response in this was neither one of us got fired because we were solving a need for the dealership. One was making GP, one was making volume. And then it always ends in the conversation like, name a general manager who gets fired for having a bad service department.
Not very many.
It probably hasn't happened in my 10 years here. What do you tend to get let go for? It's a volume thing. And that's the conversation is, when have you ever fired a salesperson for making too much GP?
Yeah.
You don't. You let them go because they don't sell cars.
Yeah.
The GP doesn't matter until we sell a car. And that's the belief is, if we're going to hire great human beings, which is the Roman Automotive push, have great human beings around us, how can we set expectations that allow them to be the great human being without saying, hey, I know you really want to go above and beyond, which may mean you not making as much money on this deal, but I need you to start making money. Well, I don't want to change you as a human being. You're special because of whatever has created you, so let's make sure that we push that into you and lean into you so that you're successful. And that's been a cool domino effect. So that's the gist of it. I know long-winded in it, but it was also an opportunity to show people that saying, hey, this person I hired today is going to be great, and then in 90 days you go, this is the worst person I've ever hired.
Yeah.
It all comes back to us.
Yeah. 100%.
So. Then you had service, which is always a whirlwind for you.
I know, it's always fun. So I did 2 classes. So one I've never really done before is the objections class. So we had the volleyball. I stole this idea from you, and I don't know who you stole the idea from.
I always steal them. Mike Blattner is who it came from.
We had a circle of trust. So I had everybody in a circle because, let's face it, advisors are awful at objections.
I like this one. Are there any discounts available?
You know, we do from time to time send discounts out. Let me make sure I do have the correct email and phone number for you on file.
Okay, you're not closing me. Get out of here.
Now, one thing I can do today, we can actually split that up into payments over time if you'd like to do that. It makes it a little bit more manageable. Well, I mean, I have to have some direction of,
it took me like 3 seconds to know what you were doing there.
Yeah. No, so it was really good. You know, and with service, I think it's so complicated in terms of like the objections, and you don't know what you've presented, and is it a safety concern? Is it a preventative maintenance concern? But I think it was good just to sit in the circle and to learn from each other, you know, because we have a bunch of different brands represented, and, you know, really hopefully raise awareness for, man, some of these people, they don't know where to go.
Did any of them really stand out? Good or bad?
We've
had some really bad ones before.
There were 2 people that really locked up. You know, and then I think the tendency with the advisors is the customer puts a wall up with the objection, right? And then they just kind of beat into the wall or build a second wall, on top of that.
For sure.
There were some super good ones. And then one of the most fun I ever have in these classes is doing mystery shopping.
Which is the worst for everyone else besides you.
Oh, dude. All right. So here's what happened. So I made a sheet with the online mystery shopping, just some things to look for. The first day, so here was the exercise. I want you to be a customer and shop for tires. So when you shop for something, what do? You compare it, right? So you're going to have your vehicle, you're going to quote it at a Roman store, then you're going to find 2 comparisons, see who you would buy it from. And within 3 minutes, we've had people in the first class like, oh, I'm not doing this. This is so confusing, complicated. Like they gave up. They gave up.
Using our tools.
Yes. And so, there was another funny thing on the website where like they clicked on the wrong tire link. So it took them to an information page instead of a quote page, and then it's like, oh, the aftermarkets are so much better. They go there. They're even worse too. Right. So the lesson with that, it was a bit of a social experiment for me because, that's somewhere where we need to make that easier for the customer. But for the advisor, if we quote tires to the customer, we're doing them such a service because this is such a headache. Like it took people in the industry 20 minutes and only half the room,
Just sad to hear.
only half the room said they could make an educated decision with 3 options.
So what's holding them back?
As far as what? The online experience?
Yeah. Like how can you have a professional, if you came to me and you said like, hey, what car would you buy if you had 25 grand? I could give you a list of them.
Yeah.
If you came to me and said, what tire should I buy? I would at least give you the brand of tire.
Man,
so from someone who does it every day, I don't do tires every day. So like for me to know what brand I would put on my wife's car, I would say like, what do you think holds them back who are doing tires every day to be able to do that?
Well, I think it's just all in all, it's just quoting it, like just doing a good, better, best. And
that makes sense.
When you talk about the brand, so that's one of the things we talked about were the options. Like if I just say, hey Zach, here's these Bridgestones, and they're $900, and you're like, oh. So I haven't given you anything to compare it to. So it's either the Bridgestones or what's the other option? No, I don't want them.
It makes sense.
So that was the other part of the training was like, we're saving the customer so much time. Plus we can use that experience of, hey, I shop for tires. It's awful. Like even these other, it's so hard because then you have a Michelin on this website and a Michelin on this website and they're $50 difference. So you're like, is it the same tire? Is it not the same tire?
And you're looking at an image that's like
it's wild.
Big and...
So then today I luckily got a chance to call some stores. So I have a 21 Sienna, 55,000 miles. I'm a prime candidate for tires. Every Toyota dealer I called in a large city in Indiana, no answer.
Really?
I'm telling you, no answer. One of them I got kicked back 3 times because you can hear it.
Is Lafayette considered a large city?
No, it's not. Indianapolis.
Okay, good.
So it's like ring, 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 and then it goes to the hold music, and then someone transfer me back, ring, 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 and then I got a voicemail. Leave a voicemail. The other one, I just got disconnected. It was like 4 rings, disconnect.
So, quick question: are you in the market for tires?
I mean, I bought them here.
Okay,
but,
good.
So, I don't know. It's just such a fun exercise, right? So, obviously, the lesson there is...
they're humbling. That's the problem, right? Because, like...
We called 2 of our stores.
It never fails that anytime I've ever done this, right? It's like only 2 options. Either A, they sniff you out before you ever get to do a mystery shop, or B, it's so frustrating, disappointing that when you go to have the conversation, it doesn't come out. So, like, how do you plan on implementing this to be a positive? Because I feel like some people could take it as a negative of, like...
Yeah, and
you let that person go.
That's the wrap up, right? It's like, what is the point of this exercise? To bring awareness to this, because we have a huge competitive advantage if we can answer the phone. And if we can provide a tire quote like a good, better, best, if we can send it to the customer, right?
Makes sense.
Which we have all those tools available. It's just more the training. So it's almost more of a manager training. But then again, with the advisors, it's like, you don't want to drive customers back to the dealership. You want to drive them back to you personally. So like, when you get those phone calls, they're not annoying.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot.
Customers are calling you because they can't figure it out online. And that's what a few of the advisors said, even like, they were like, at this point, I would give up and call. Exactly. That's why your customers are calling you so much, right? So A, we need to fix the online experience, but that's on us. B, the advisors need to start handling those calls like, hey, this customer's probably frustrated just like you were in the training.
And then owning the customers, what I hear from you is like...
100%.
Hey, I want this customer to be my customer always. Even
my name's Austin.
Oil change,
I want to work
service,
with you. Yeah.
If it's a suspension job, like, I think the fear is I would rather get the good ticket now and hope that the next 3 I miss and then get the next good one.
Yeah.
I think the owning it then allows you to be the repeat customer where they know what your pace is going to be, how you deliver it, how you help.
The other thing we talked about, like customer, when you have customer issues, use that as an opportunity to build loyalty. Because again, it's like, hey, I am so sorry you had this experience today. Like, I'm going to take care of this today, and then I want to make sure I take care of you next time too, right? Because I want to be sure I handle this experience a little bit better than what you had today, but I want to take ownership of that. So again, driving it back to you, not necessarily the dealership.
So I think in wrapping up for the Roman Recharge, the question I'd ask you, and then obviously I'll kind of share the same point on this. What do you think the biggest takeaway is for the people who attend? Because I think so many times you and I talk about this quite a bit because of our relationship. Like, what did we want to accomplish today as trainers?
Yeah.
So, like, what do you think if I went down to your people that sat through yours, like, what do you think they accomplished?
Man, I mean, I think everyone has a different takeaway. And I've really learned after doing all these, when I first got into it, you spend all day training, and I'm thinking, man, they're going to have sheets and notes and all this different stuff. But what I've really learned is, like, if you can give them one idea that they latch onto. So they're going to go through 5 sessions. One idea that they latch onto and take some action with, I mean, that's what it is. So, some of the things I heard was obviously some of the objection handling.
Yeah, I think that'd be
and
huge.
Then, man, next time I deal with a customer, do I have the liberty to say, I'm going to go ahead and detail your car for free for you, or I'm going to go ahead and give you a free oil change next time. A lot of the advisors were not empowered to do that by their managers. So I think those are 2 of the takeaways I heard. But at the end of the day, when you're training on that, for me, is just try to give them one nugget. But I can't decide what that is, right?
Yeah, and that's how I felt. Like, I try to almost force the report card. So this is one of the first opportunities I've had to do it, any kind of training outside of my Lafayette area, right? I'm very confident here because most of the general managers are newer to the group.
Yep.
So I've kind of been the grandfather, the guy who's been there to go ask questions. So I've been in their stores. I know most of the staff, that kind of thing. But when I was in Chicago, I try to really push the idea of, like, the report card. And I hope that's the one idea because, again, I think from a sales manager, depending on how far you want to take it, do I know what grade I have? And do my people know what grade they deserve? Because I kept relating this back when I was trying to build out the training. Like, if I really studied on a test, I knew what grade I was going to get going into the test.
Yeah. You got
when
a good
I
idea.
didn't study, I prayed, hoped, and dreamed what I got. And that's where I feel like I hope the takeaway of Recharge was today for me and what I had in it was, like, are we going to be able to make sure our people know exactly where we're at? So it definitely is one of those, to your point. I pray they took one away. What I think would be a good one to see for our guest is at the end of this one, how would they handle this? Put it in the comments.
Yes.
Can you do it cheaper somewhere else in the service department? What would you handle? How would you handle this objection in the comments? Can I do it cheaper somewhere else?
I like it.
Like, follow, subscribe. Guys, more coming to you. The Dealer Insider, something we're going to try to do a little different just to mix it up, stay relevant. Send us some ideas of it. Automotive news, we're going to use a lot of that. If you haven't seen Roman Automotive, Roman Toyota's definitely been doing a good job getting our name out there. We want to keep pushing it. Austin, I love the ideas of service. If there's more stuff we can kind of keep pulling from there, let's keep doing it because I think that's kind of a niche that we've heard from individuals reaching out to us going, we want more of Austin and more in the inside of the service. So,
yeah.
Insider Insight, out!